Okay, so you know how we all wear shoes, right? But I bet most of us never stop and think, huh, how'd this thing actually get made?
Right.
Well, today we're going to find out. We're doing a deep dive into footwear manufacturing, specifically what it takes to be a footwear assembly supervisor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and after going through this RoleCatcher guide, I'm realizing it's way more involved than I ever would have thought.
Yeah, it's really not as simple as you might think. It's a lot more than just, assembly lines. You're basically conducting an entire orchestra of skilled workers. You're the one making sure everything runs smoothly and making sure all those raw materials actually turn into a finished shoe.
Wow, okay, so you're not just keeping things moving on a conveyor belt, you're responsible for the whole process, from start to finish.
Exactly. And a huge part of that, and the guide keeps mentioning this, is understanding how the lasting room works. Apparently, that's a pretty key part of the whole operation.
The lasting room. It sounds kind of peaceful, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But it's actually where things get really, really intense because it's where the upper part of the shoe gets attached to the sole, and that requires some serious skill.
Wow, that does not sound peaceful at all. It sounds more like a pressure cooker.
Exactly. You need incredible precision, and you have to have a good eye for detail.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the RoleCatcher guide actually lists out some pros and cons for this job, and it's
Yeah.
definitely not your typical 9 to 5.
It isn't.
It's hands-on, which is cool. There's a lot of potential for moving up, but it also requires some serious attention to detail
Mm.
and the ability to keep up in what sounds like a pretty demanding environment.
For sure. You know what's interesting, though? The guide emphasizes that it takes more than just technical skills to be good at this. You need things like active listening skills, social perceptiveness, and excellent time management.
Oh, that's interesting. And those are all skills that could apply to any job, not just footwear.
Exactly. Those are those transferable skills everyone's always talking about.
So even if someone's not trying to get into shoemaking, this deep dive could still teach them a thing or two about what employers are looking for.
Absolutely. It's all about making those connections between skills and how they can be applied to different situations.
And speaking of different career paths, this RoleCatcher guide actually lays out kind of like a roadmap, for moving up in this field.
Yeah, like step by step.
Yeah, it starts with entry-level operator, and then you can work your way all the way up to supervisor.
Right. And it's not just about like putting in the years.
Right.
They make it clear that you're taking on more and more responsibility with each step.
Yeah, and what I thought was really interesting was they give you these example profiles for each level, and you can really see how, like, the way they describe the job, like the actual language they use, changes as you move up.
Yeah,
It goes from, like, basic tasks to, like, manage teams and oversaw budgets, stuff like that.
it's like they're showing you how to subtly show off your experience just in the way you describe what you
Right.
did.
Yeah, it's like you're not just doing the job, you're learning how to sell yourself as you go.
Exactly. And that's huge when it comes to building a resume that's actually going to stand out.
Okay, and speaking of resumes, RoleCatcher is like really big on tailoring your resume for each job you apply for,
Oh, yeah. They talk about that a lot.
which I get, I do, but honestly, I gotta say, reading through this guide, all this talk about examining uppers and soles, it's starting to get to me. Like at this point, I need someone to just show me a diagram of a shoe.
They really glossed over that part, didn't
They
they?
really did. So like the upper, is that the whole top part of the shoe?
No. So the upper is basically everything you see on the top part. So the laces, the tongue, any designs, all of that.
Okay, that makes sense. And the sole, is that just the bottom part that touches the ground?
That's the one.
Okay. But what does it mean to examine them, though? Like, are you looking for, like, little scratches or something? Or can a whole shoe be, like, totally messed up?
Well, it's both. You have to look at the big picture and the little details. They're checking the
Mhm.
materials, the stitching, seeing if anything's misaligned. Basically anything that could affect how the shoe looks, how long it lasts, all that.
So it's a pretty important job.
Oh, for sure. And the guide really stresses that the lasting room, where they attach the upper to the sole, that's where everything comes together.
Oh, okay.
And that's why the supervisor has to really know what they're doing.
Right, because if something goes wrong there, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, though, isn't it? Like, making a shoe seems so simple, but there's actually so much that goes into it.
Way more than meets the eye.
Yeah. And, speaking of complex things, I noticed that RoleCatcher keeps mentioning all these AI features they have on their website, which, I don't know, for a job like this that seems so hands-on, it's kind of a weird fit, don't you think?
You'd think so, right? But here's the thing. These days, if you're looking for a job, any job, You're basically dealing with AI, whether you like it or not. So what RoleCatcher is trying to do is give people the tools they need to compete in this new world.
So they're not trying to, like, replace people with robots. They're just trying to help people keep up.
Exactly.
Okay, I can get behind that. So, like, what kind of tools are we talking about here? So what kind of tools are we talking about here?
Well, they have this thing, the RoleCatcher Capture plugin,
Okay.
and it's supposed to be super helpful. So say you're, looking for jobs online, and you see one that looks interesting, a Footwear Assembly Supervisor position, let's say.
Right.
You just click that bookmark button,
Yeah.
and the AI takes it from there.
Okay, but it's not just about applying faster, right? Because I can just click apply really fast.
Right, it's not about speed.
So what's it doing? Is it telling me if I have a chance or not?
Not exactly, no. It's more about, like, giving you extra info so you can make a good impression.
Okay.
Like, it might point out that you're missing a skill that the job description mentions, and then recommend a course or something.
Oh, wow. That'd be super helpful, actually.
Right. Because sometimes you look at a job and you're just not sure if you're a good fit.
Totally. Yeah.
Or say you have a couple different versions of your resume. The AI can actually figure out which one would be best for that specific job.
Oh, wow. That's cool. It's like having your own little career assistant, kind of.
Exactly. Helping you put your best foot forward.
I like it. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We started with the very specific, like, what does a footwear assembly supervisor even do?
All those uppers and soles.
Right. And now we're talking about AI and the future of work.
It's crazy how it all connects.
It really is. But it just goes to show there's a lot more to this industry than you might think.
And a lot of opportunity, too.
Exactly. So next time you're, tying your shoes, maybe take a minute and think about the journey those shoes took to get to you.
And all the people who helped make it happen.
And maybe even the AI that's going to help you land your dream job in the industry.
You never know.
You never know. That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.